Hey everyone, welcome to your daily update for SOL and Bitcoin and market cap, and hopefully all the information that you need to trade in the right direction for what comes next. So starting with liquidity, the 1 day is getting a little bit more bearish. So e.g. there's more longs to be taken. So the levels are starting to develop below 108. So there are some reasons in the charts actually. There's starting to think that we might actually see a bigger correction than what we've just gone through. So at the moment, the 1 day sort of shows levels down to about 107. We haven't actually retested the origin breakout level at 108.350 on the weekly yet. We sort of just stopped slightly short of it, and likewise we've got some resistance levels that are really hard to chart. Like they're ones that don't show up when you look on TradingView. They show up sometimes in the native timeframes available through exchange platforms, but there is one sitting at 112,459, and I'm looking at this 1 day liquidity and just thinking, well, they're not really building liquidity above that, so we might see a push up to 112,459 and then a dump. It's just one thought, so I'm definitely going to be taking some profit on that Bitcoin long if we push up into there. I already took a little bit just to be safe. There was sort of a lower time frame rejection that could have taken a bit of a hold at about 110800, so I've already taken some out there. But so that's the 1 day. SOL massively stacked to the downside. Like it's unusually, all the balls are in, they're all longing, they're all on high leverage, and it's just asking for trouble really. They're not stacking anything above about 200, and so sometimes you get these support and resistance levels that anchor based off different dates, and so when they multiply on top of the date that they were originally anchored on, they come out to different places in time. And so we have a 5 day exchange anchored time frame, which gives us a long up to about 202, and at the same time we have this 2 day rejection based on the same methodology sitting there on Bitcoin at about 112,459. So it's interesting just that the 1 day liquidity is lining up with that, and I just can't help but wonder if the people aren't going to see this one coming. So next, let's have a look at the 7 day. So when we flip across to the 7 day, you can see everyone's short Bitcoin because they've got all bearish on it. But if we do reject based on the 112 sort of area on Bitcoin, then we're not actually going to be taking any of that 7 day liquidity, which is also odd. And we have got some longs in place that take us to 114, 115, and 117. There's not much there that we've just bounced off that really goes past about 117. So, whether they push all the way up past 112 to 117 and then have a bigger dump down, that's not ideal. Like if they leave some of that topside liquidity behind, then it's probably not the full reversal yet. It's probably not the bear market, So maybe we do go up to 112 and then down and then back up again to take the shorts when they become really confident. It's possible. The 7 day on SOL is again just showing that cluster up to about 202, which and there's still a lot more to the downside, and starting to really show that 176 would be worthwhile taking to the downside, and the sort of middle cluster there down to about 180. If we go to the 30 day, so 30 day on Bitcoin still heavily stacked at the upside, so everyone's getting pretty bearish. And this is the one that sort of shows up to about 120. 120, they've built some origin level resistance, and the rejection from that point could be pretty big. So if they go up a little bit, then down a little bit, then up a little bit, that's all good. That's just normal ranging. and they just take it from the upside, move it to the down, and so on and so forth. And what you want to do is you want to see them gradually going higher every time. It is a little bit concerning if you look at something like a 30-day liquidity chart and you just don't see a lot past 120 when structurally you have high time frame rejection levels sitting at 120. That's very much like what happened, at the last cycle. They built the big rejection, they messed around below it, and then they spiked up, swept all the topside liquidity, and then we went into a bear market. So doesn't seem like the timing's quite right, but then it's been a long bull market and it did start quite early, and so you never know. With SOL, that 30-day liquidity would sort of mean a revisit up to about that 213, 214, 216 level. So the last move that we've just had was a 3-week rejection from 213 back down to the range trend that sat at about 185, 186. We never actually touched the 3-week opposite range trend, which sits just above the hold level. So that's still sitting there, and it's probably around 214. We'll have a look when we get to the charts, as long as I don't forget. But it's sitting up around that 214, 215 area. So that if they swept all the topside liquidity on Bitcoin and went for a really big correction, that would probably also come in line with them hitting that really high time frame range trend and rejecting. So just keep an eye out for that. We just don't seem to have the euphoria yet to really imply a top, or maybe I'm just getting a bit numb to it. I don't know. Tell me in the comments, are you euphoric? If everyone comments yes, then I'll probably sell everything. But anyway, let's see. If we go to the downside on SOL, down to about 169, a little bit lower is even worth taking on the 30-day. So it's starting to line up with what I'm seeing and what could be a bigger correction coming. So let's have a look at what they've done more recently with liquidity. Yeah. So we had the dip. We've gone sideways. As we've gone sideways, they've been building this liquidity to the top side, and now as they're moving up, people are starting to come into the bottom side. So that's real-time liquidity. That's how it works. They'll take the price up, to develop to the downside, to then go down into the downside, and overall, it looks like they're setting a ceiling up around that 120 for Bitcoin. They're setting a ceiling up around that 220 for SOL. And short term 105 is starting to come into the picture on Bitcoin, and 180 is starting to come into the picture on SOL. So I saw some comments in a Discord just recently, people talking about how you just long liquidity charts, but you just got to be really careful with longing liquidity charts, because it's not about where that liquidity is, it's about how do they react to it. So if they dive into the liquidity and then run away from it really quickly, then that's great. They're trying to shift the liquidity more so to the upside, because people will chase that, but they'll chase it too late and it's already moved up. And that kind of means that the whole thing is trying to move up on the charts. But if they just dive it and stay there, then and if they pretend with a couple little fake pumps and some sideways motion, then they'll build more liquidity underneath as everybody longs, and then it's 50-50. They might just dive it again. So you just got to be careful you're not, just stupidly buying liquidity tops and bottoms with the expectation that that's where price always reverses, because it doesn't always reverse. So it's a thing you use in confluence with structure to know more like, when will things happen? When can I take a holiday? When can I go watch a movie on Netflix? That kind of stuff. Because if structure says the price is going somewhere, it will eventually go there. The reason to get there, they want liquidity to make it more efficient to get there. They want all that liquidity to be filled up in between on the short term, and on the high time frames, they want a nice big pile of it sitting there to open positions into or sell positions into. So liquidity is confluence for structure. Don't just trade liquidity; you will get wrecked. So that's but yeah, that's where we are. Rant over. Let's have a look at our charts. So right. So SOLBTC Strength it's really been a tough spot. So on the daily, so we've got this hold level here that it's developed in the last couple of days at 17686, and it's rejecting off that, but it's still just above its trend, interior trend. So if it can just stay up here, at least for the next few hours, it'd be lovely if it pushed up a bit higher, but if it can stay up here for the next few hours and hold that trend, then it might be able to break the hold. And if it can break the hold, it might be able to get through the downtrend, resistance trend in play. That'd be quite bullish because this would be classed as the sweep of the liquidity. And normally after you do a sweep like that, you have a bigger move to the downside. So that's kind of why I don't know if I trust this entirely. I've done this sweep. It's kind of close. Like it's pretty close to be classed as the sweep, as the opposite of that sweep. So yeah, we'll see how that closes at the end of the day. It might be one of those ones where they just move it down like really close to close time, just to keep everybody bullish until then. Or maybe, hey, we're just at that point where they push it up and we bounce. So if we get a close over the topside trend, which is about currently sitting around that, about 17924, if it can open the next candle above that, then it's again very, very bullish. So that's pretty good. We're kind of happy with where that is. We will get this interior trend form, which is sitting really close to the exterior. And yeah, so a rejection is probably more likely, just looking at this as it stands at the moment, but you know, a lot can change in crypto in 2 hours. So see how that closes. If it pushes up and eliminates that wick and opens on the other side of the new trend forming on the interior, then you've got an interior and an exterior really close together, which is like more fuel for the breakout. Really, if you tend to see like down here, you tend to see trends get quite condensed before you have a bigger move, and then it sort of uses the strength of bouncing off all of that stuff that was in this area down here. See all the lines that are coming through there. Once it bounces off that, you get a big move. So it seems to be like it might be building that sort of structure around where it is now. So that's SOLBTC Strength. Now let's have a look at our dominance. So dominance has gone back under trend. It's found the 1 day hold level at 64.22%. So we want it to, ideally, you want it to close underneath some of this higher time frame support that it's bouncing off. So you kind of want it to close lower than that. But if it doesn't, it'll become just a fight between the trend and the hold, and one side will give way. So it's not the perfect place for it to be, but it's not a bad place for it to be. It's under the 3 day range trend, which is what's really important, as long as it stays under that 3 day range trend. And it hasn't tested this upper hold level here at 65.62. And it's technically a backside rejection at the moment off the 65% area on the 3 day. So as long as it just keeps rejecting off backsides, it's a parabolic move to the downside. And that's what we want to see with dominance, just continue to fall. Total market cap is still got room to move up. So it hasn't hard closed under any of the important support levels. I mean, it's bounced off them, which is kind of what you want to see. If it gets to about 355.22, that will be not much really, actually. That what's the next one? 356.55. If it gets to 356.55, that's going to roughly line up with some trends. I mean, they're probably sitting a little bit above that, 358. And it hasn't. It's an interesting level, that one, because it lost it to the downside here. It hasn't really hard closed back above it. It's gone back below it. Since going back below it, it hasn't really hard closed back below it either. So it's just kind of going up and down on that area. So it'll have to make a decision soon. So this is 1, 2. Really, it's a maximum of 2 days, unless it slowly falls. But by the time it gets to this trend here, which is currently, well, as of tomorrow, it's 357. And 356 is sort of that backside rejection there. Once it gets to that trend, it has to make a choice. It has to close over it and go up, or it has to reject off it. So that should come in the next couple of days. All right, let's look at Bitcoin. Hey, so it's diving the 1 day trend. Good news is it's prolonging further falls on this because it's looking like it's going to close up. So we haven't hard closed the 1 day trend yet. So we may keep moving back up towards that 1 day. We can re-enter any of these 1 day ranges and get above that 1 day trend relatively easily, as long as we don't close a distribution or a blue candle down here. But you can see the bounces off those various levels in there. It's more noticeable when you see it on the higher time frame chart next. But as it stands, nothing really changes on the 1 day. As of today, it's just a prolonged, we're not breaking our daily trend yet, but we are actually we are breaking our downtrend. We probably will move up, so that's not bad, although it may not be much of a move up. So the first level that could reject that would be the inverse, which is sitting there at about 111,631. I mean, yeah, it may not be such a move up. But it's not such a bad place to be right now, because this trend will move to there. There's almost no wick on that. So as long as it doesn't dump in the next 2 hours, we should open on the first interior daily. So distribution usually cycles for about 5 to 6 trend breaks. And it can cycle up or down, which is kind of your whole bearish or bullish divergence and that kind of thing. But at the moment, it's this will be number 1. So if it can open above and give you another yellow candle, then there'll be another trend, and that'll be number 2, and so on and so forth. So it's on the daily, that's not looking too bad, really. On the 4 day, unfortunately. Oh, sorry, 2 day. It's 2 day. So the 2 day, this is when people were screaming for 110, and I've been screaming for 110 as well. But also, the important thing to note was that 110 was not a sustainable bounce. We needed to come down. Excuse me. We needed to come down into this front side level down here, and we have. So midpoint of the front side. We're going to lose this 2 day trend today. And when we do lose this 2 day trend, it's going to shift down here. But because of the size of the wick on this candle, we're actually flipping the 2 day trend from being resistance above to being support below. So kind of changing the concept of our wedge. So the new 2 day trend will end up sitting down at about 109. We'll have a hold level there at about 114,227. So the likelihood is that we're going to go one way first. We'll either move up, which is probably what the 1 day is going to give us, considering we're breaking trend, and then we're going to run into something like the 2 day. That hold level's in the wrong place. Sorry, 114,210. We're going to run into something like the 2 day hold level, and then we're probably going to reject back down to trend, or we're going to go down first, bounce off the trend, and go back to the hold level. One way or the other, I think there's more up and down in Bitcoin, which also makes sense, just given if you want alt season, it's basically Bitcoin grinds its way upwards, and alts move with greater strength to every one of the upwards moves. So overall, that's actually looking pretty good. It's done exactly what we expected it to do, and as you can see, like first bounce, second bounce, and then down into the front side level for the slower grinding that we've seen in the last sort of 24 hours. So this is what you expect. Backsides bounce fast, front sides accumulate. Limit orders get filled slowly over time. People capitulate. Spot sellers sell their positions expecting it to go deep, deep, deep down, and then it goes up. And then it's just a case of where does it go up to before the whole up and down thing starts again. So it's our 2-day. The 3-day doesn't close today, but I just left it on here just to illustrate that we haven't actually tested the backside of the range trend yet, which is again a bit suspect. So I'm sort of thinking they're going to drop that down again. We're also getting quite close to resistance. So we've got this hold level here at 112.821. So this is showing up as a 3-day on here, but it's actually showing up as a 2-day slightly lower down than that on the native exchange anchoring. So which roughly lines up with where the trend is. So summary, if you take one thing from this, is just watch and see what Bitcoin does when it gets to 112.459, because it could be something you can't see coming in a dip before the dip is expected, because you'd expect one when it hits this hold level here, but it might drop. It might start to drop, $400 before that. So just keep an eye on that. But nothing changes, no trends move. We develop a interior when this closes, but it's not for like another 2 days. So we'll look at that again closer to the time. It could have changed drastically by then. Okay, 7-day short has played out. It's done. It's finished. So that was years short from 114 down to 108.968. Job done. This is, that was just pitch perfect, really. Short the hold level, trend 1618 fib right there. Now this closes in 2 hours, so this will move a trend. So it's going to move from where you see it there now, and it's going to shift across to here. So the new trend support will be at about 109.823. And because the hold level's already been hit on this time frame, the trend is going to try and bounce the price up to 120, which is the origin level. But this is the unfortunate thing. We are creating a 7-day origin level up there at 120. So we've had our distribution range, we had our break level, we hit our break level, we rejected down into a second distribution range, meaning that 120.128 is now a 7-day origin level. So pros and cons. If we hit that, it's definitely got the power to break these trends, and that could send us back to, would that send us in the next 7 days? Well, that would send us back down to say 106, 105 type area. And positives of that is that if we can get a 7-day candle over the top of it, an accumulation, well, then it can break the trends to the upside, and that sends us into price discovery. So we're really on the fence for Bitcoin now. It's either it's going to have to end and start really going down, or it's going to have to break some of these higher time frame resistances that it's starting to build. So yeah, that's about all there is to that. And I suppose if you're going to try and watch some levels for this, it's either going to have to go down to 110 or lower again, and then bounce maybe all the way to 120, or it's going to dive that trend to the front side hold, because on this time frame, this is just a backside move. So yeah, it might dive the trend all the way down to 106. So let's see what our 7-day shows. Sorry, 14-day. 14-day we're up to. Right. So 14-day. It's basically dived a range trend, but it didn't hit any levels. So we've got a hold level that will be created today at 117.899. The range trend may just try to send us back to that. It may it may go up first, hit that, and come back to the range trend. But again, there should be some interaction between these levels. If it was to dive the range trend tomorrow to try and hit a target, it would be to try and hit 108,350. So we're looking for this to close above trend. We just want it to stay above there. We don't want it to open a candle below. Ideally, we would really want today's close to be above 111,950 because then we're closing above the hard close break level as well. And that'd be support. You can see the bounce it's given us one time. So yeah, with this, looking for that closing level 111,950. If we close under that, but above trend, then the break and the trend are going to have a fight, and whichever one actually wins, it's yeah, unfortunately it'll probably be the break that wins, and it could push it down to that backside level there for the bounce back up. But it should be a good bounce if it closes, as long as it closes over the trend, it should be a good bounce, because while the candle is not closed, it can just recapture that area and continue up. So that might be our move. If they're going to do another dip, might be to finally tag these lower areas. So it also hasn't done a hard close retest of 106,421. So they might open above trend, come down, tag those, bounce back up to the hold level. Get a lot of people crying in both directions. Okay. What do we got going on 17? So on the 17 day, we're going to create a distribution range and a new break level. So that's going to mean a break level at about 119,811. We're not hard closing any of the. We're not hard closing this level. So what's this? 109. That's still going to be resistance. We're going to be slightly above trend. So it's really teasing. It does this every single day, really. They always just sit right at the levels that make a difference. Where you just got to sit on your hands and wait for the close. The rest of the candle is just noise. So if this closes in a bad place, let's just see what that looks like on something slightly lower. Right, so it's on the wrong side of it currently on the daily. So we really need to close, 1119 something. So I think the previous one was 11950. So that's really where we want to be above for this time frame as well. And if we do that, we could come back up to retest the backside of this trend unbroken. We'd retest the backside of that. So it's like numbers like 115, 118, 119, they're all in play. As long as we stay up above, or get up above this trend, I should say, because we're below it currently. But it's respecting its backside bounce, respecting its trend. So at the moment, that's not bad. It looks like we will have at least a little bit more upside. And we can still actually have upside even if we open under the trend. The trend's not hard closed. So let's see what happens on our 34 day. Now 34 day is going to open on the wrong side of the trend, of course. This could initiate a dump back to the 104, 105 area. That's entirely possible. And it could reject from about the 118, 117 upwards area on the next candle. What it's definitely not is it definitely has not broken the topside resistance trend. So it needs to find some kind of level to actually get back above that. Unfortunately, the only level really that this time frame has that would be a proper bounce is about 99. So these are the first types of timeframes pointing to high probabilities of sub 100. they're already in rejection. They've got to find something, or they've got to make something. If the rejection's really slow, then trends just develop, and then trends can become supportive. But at this stage, that's the first sort of thing we're seeing pointing lower. And just for giggles, why not have a look at 119-day? It's really hard to figure out what one is the proper 119-day trend, but when you're under all of them, you know it's not good. So this has got a support level at about 102. It's got a second support. It's actual fact, it's got both previous, so one of the really old trends runs through there at about 102, and you got a backside level there at 99.9, and there'll be some kind of front side at 95. I mean, I don't think Bitcoin can really get much lower, even if it does one of these high time frame rejections. And tomorrow is a prime day, so just expect chaos. It's the best day to do it because chaos and capitulation can both be brought into effect for 48 hours. So without major structural ramifications. So if this goes up, it could reject off any of these. And they pretty much range from 114 through to 118. And then, 102, 99, 95. Let's hope they leave that for the bear market. Shall see. Right. Okay, let's have a look at SOL. So, summary. Bitcoin, a little bit bearish. Now let's have a look at SOL. Okay. So, happy news. We spent a day accumulating between a couple of trend and a range trend. So just accumulation, tons of it. That's great. Calm before the storm, and now we've broken out of it. I still have a sneaky suspicion that it doesn't really matter how bullish this is. To some degree, it's always going to be held back or have to go down if some of those bigger rejections happen on Bitcoin. But at the moment, the one-day liquidity shows up to around the 200s, sort of that 202 area, and we're bouncing off a trend. We have a hold level up here at about 204, so pretty realistic for a short-time move. We will hopefully just get some continuation through that. There is a backside trend kicking in at about 99. It would be odd for that not to have some kind of resistance, but at the same time, it's not a broken trend because we've not done a hard close under it. So the daily is looking pretty positive there. And if we have a look at the 2-day close today, so we want to see the price above 200.670 on the 2-day, and that would stop the hold level from being created. So that's kind of a key level for closing, 200.670. However, it can be a cheeky close. So by cheeky close, I mean that if it just closes, say, over 198.3 or somewhere just above this local downtrend, then the hold level can have a fight with the local downtrend, and that stops it from having to fall further. So yeah, 98, 90, even 97, which is kind of about, where are we now, 96.9. Yeah, so 96.9, 97 is a cheeky place where it can have a small move, maybe. I mean, it can still break down. It hasn't broken this trend yet. But yeah, if they want to push it up, they don't want it to fall as much as Bitcoin, then closing at 97 or above can basically help that. If it wants to be really bullish, it's going to not make that hold level. And that means the day closes over 200.670. And this is how you read the intent. Like, if there's potential to make resistance, and just before the end of the day, in the last 15, 20 minutes or whatever, it just creeps up above that and removes that resistance from being structurally created, that's how you measure intention. For future price action. Doesn't mean they don't dump and take out the longs that have chased it, but longer term, you know that their intent to go up. So 2-day is looking pretty good. At least we're going to know what to do with this. It's been bouncing its trends, doing all the normal stuff, so it's pretty good. A 3-day, which doesn't close for a couple of days, but I just wanted to show you this one. We haven't we've had this sweep of the 3-day range, and it made this hold level down here at 189. We've bounced the hold level, and we're probably heading back to that 3-day trend, which is around 200. So that is effectively one of the structural fights that's going on at the moment. Plenty of time to go on this candle. But it does show that once we sort of get above that 200 area, there is potential for the rejection down. This range actually exists now above the global trend. So this is also quite cheeky because whilst a lot of people might be waiting for a 3-day close above the trend, the global trend, and a retest of it to then enter a position, they could do a 3-day close above this range trend and bounce off the back of that and go up, and then all these people waiting for the big trend never get their entry. They just sit there waiting. So it's one of the possible things to watch out for just in the next, what would that be? 5 days. 5 days to make 2 candles. So keep an eye on that. Okay, so the 7-day close today is looking a hell of a lot more bullish than Bitcoin. It's going to create a support level. It's going to be closing on top of a range trend. So we get a hold level generated at 191.782. The only one thing I would say, and we have this range trend here, which it's going to be closing above, and a retest of that would be 181. The only thing I would say about this, which could be a little bit of a trap, is that it's quite an elevated hard close of 168,290 range. So first hard closing candle above the range, and we are technically on the back side of the interior uptrend. So do they dive the range trend? Which might be the case. They could go hold, and then so let's see, 191.086, and then maybe a revisit of the 200s, but even sweep through it to test the backside of the trend one more time. Could go to the break level again, even up there at about 205. Could do any of that. Then reject back to the hold, break the hold, or even dive the hold. It's 7-day candles, so they've got a bit of time. And then we've got these areas like 180 and even 168. Now, 168 is a high probability retest. It's just when, does it do it next candle, or does it do it 10 candles from now when everybody is euphoric and way up in the clouds with quitting their day jobs and becoming full-time traders? So just if you like, look at this one here just as an example. When it broke across the top of this range, which was 152, was this candle here, and we got the retest immediately on the next candle. That's not bad. Then we got a bounce, but the problem is they've made a hold level, and so they've made that hold level at 168. So the bounce off the broken range sent us to the hold level at 168, which sent us all the way down to dive the liquidity below the trend. And this was ultimately very bullish. This was sweeping out all the liquidity from the previous broken range before you get the big move up. And I can't remember I mentioned it on a video or in might have been in the Discord, but if you get a sweep of a previous broken range, it's really bullish. It's taking out all those people in the older positions who were longing through that range, and they only do that because they want to build their position at the most discounted level before they pump the price. So it's not so different than what you saw here, the sweep of the previous range, except it wasn't hard closed. So do they do that again is the question. So it could happen. Right, let's have a look. So yeah, key level for this one is staying over 191.782 to build the hold. Super bullish if it gets up above this trend, which would be like 202 by the end of the day. Could happen the way SOL's been playing lately, but I don't know. Okay. 14-day. It's going to open its next candle above the downtrend. So super bullish. Doesn't break the trend. Nope. Does hard close the 187. Hard closes the 187,620 break. Hard closes the 188,786 origin level. Still in rejection off the 204 level. Okay, so will it dive back, take liquidity from the range after what we just discussed? Probably, maybe. Will it go all the way back to the 147 hold level? Really not likely. It is there, but pretty unlikely at this stage. What I'm seeing here is something that just really wants to break out. Once this candle is free of that downtrend, really it's just got to start getting over this 204 level. Maybe some of this older stuff from 239, 239, 244, 247. 247 is the number with the most confluence. Unfortunately, we don't have any levels above 247 that share break level confluence, fib level confluence, and there's even some trends there. So all three things that can create a reversal exist at that price point. So it'd be nice if we had something higher, but we don't yet. So we have trends, but let's see how that goes. So next, I say that a lot. Let's see how that goes. That could be my thing. All right. So the 17-day, it's going to open up top of very old interior trend. It's going to build a really big, juicy hold level. Where that goes, let's see. That's a 210 target again. So it's going to open on top of a really old interior trend. It's still got the exterior, which it's rejected off there at 206. It's still above its support trend. It's hard closing some really big old stuff. Like, we're talking about big levels from June of last year. These are levels that, last time we hard closed, that level was December. And when we hard closed it, we set off a rally that took us to 295. So the next dip, if we do get a dip, could be the real thing, that sends it up. So the only catch is that we do have resistances now that were created in that rally, which we didn't have previously because we were already basically in price discovery by that point. Although actually, just to point out, once we have to start looking at these reverse trends, people, you've really got to zoom out and start looking at some of the really old stuff. So as you can see, this anchored from September 21 to October 21 was never hard closed above on the 7-day, and that reverse trend carried all the way through here, and that was where we hit 295 and then went on our massive dump. Right, so some of these reverse trends that have never been retested since they were lost are the ones that will create the final top. So start trying to find them all, because that's where that next top will be. So yeah, like that is your great example there. Okay. So yeah, bullish, very bullish. Could it dive? Yep. Where could it dive to? 176. And why would it do that? because it might want to retest the hard closed origin range from June 24. Okay, where would it go after that? Probably the moon. You know, something up there, 247, 259, 264, somewhere like that. It'd have to break these trends, but the thing is, it's already tested them now, and there's only so many times you hit a trend before it breaks. Okay, 34-day. So 34-day is still under its trend. It's tested it multiple times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the fourth time it's hit it. We're closing above in some pretty big levels, like this 193 level from July 24 on a 34-day time frame. So it's a big level, and we're hard closing the 175.9 origin level. So again, that's big stuff. Resistances, if it breaks that trend, 259. If it hard closes that trend, that is. It is quite a way away from the trend support and the range trend support. So, 162, 155. I mean, these numbers always get bigger in both directions the bigger you go in time frame, because that's just how price works. The bigger the time frame, the bigger the range. So, could we dive down to those levels? Maybe. Could we just literally bounce off 193.796? Yep. That trend is coming through at about 201, 202. It's just too much confluence with that daily liquidity. So I don't think we go to the moon. I think Bitcoin needs to poop the bed again, and I think SOL might just have its sweep as well. And let's see. And here we go again. 119-day range. Now this is one of the first 119 days. So up in these big time frames, this is one of the very first ones where the range trend is on. The trend is on the underside. So most of them, the trend is through the middle. This one, the trend is underneath. It's going to open above trend. If it retests the topside trend, it's about 179. If it retests the hold level, it's 189. And there's your break level there at 204, but there's really little to stop this from just jumping up to that minimum fib target of 247, which has all that other confluence. So, and then structurally, if this one starts to play out through the different ranges, this is where you can get up to your 500s, level 4. Level 4 of the move is basically about as far as these things ever go, which is why I don't bother putting the other levels on there, but that's looking really bullish. So even just opening the candle up here is what we want. And then we just stomach the dive, we buy the dip, we do whatever, we patiently wait, we TP at the different levels on the way up. Just unload with the whales. All right, so that's the run through. Overall, Bitcoin looks like it's got a whole bunch of sneaky rejections available to take advantage of. It looks bearish. It looks, on some cases, like it may even surprise everyone by going sub 100, which is a bit scary. And I will be laddering out of my Bitcoin long as we travel up. Next, it's getting pretty close actually to next TP, looking at that. And SOL, I took profits at 195. I'll take some profits at 202 or 201 point something. And we'll just see what happens. Right? The trick is not to be greedy. If you take profits on the way up, then sure, you're not holding your entire position to whatever the magical top is, but find how many people can actually pick a top before the top happens. There's not many. You're better off to ladder out as you go up, and then buy the next dip and buy the next range and just keep compounding the money. So yeah, if you want to know more about that kind of stuff, I guess, look at the educational videos. But also, we're getting some really big numbers starting to subscribe now. Like, pretty stoked, up over 340 people now. But I don't know what people want, so not psychic. So if you can leave some comments, number one, selfishly, that helps the algo. That's really great. Gets out there, like, subscribe, comment. Number two, yeah, I can make more stuff if there's stuff people are really interested in. Someone left some comments the other day about trend scalping. They just sort of want to see more of a replay of it, so I'll get that done. And if there's anything else, and then yeah, after that, jump into the Discord with us, and because it takes a while to record these videos and put these videos up. Whereas if things change quite quickly, it's easy just to copy paste and throw a chart straight into the Discord where people can see it. So yeah, we'll catch you all again. Cheers. Bye.